You already know what to do. You've known it for a long time, but knowing isn't doing. And until your feet start moving, your dreams will keep drowning in your silence. Wanting something is not rare. Everyone wants something. Everyone carries dreams tucked behind their ribs like sacred letters they're afraid to open. Everyone whispers hopes to themselves late at night, painting pictures of better days, better lives, better versions of who they could be. But desire alone changes nothing. You can want it with all your heart. You can speak it with passion. You can cry over it with longing. But if you do not pair that desire with discipline, you will watch your dreams rot in your imagination. Discipline is the bones of becoming. It is the quiet force that moves you when nobody's watching, when no one's clapping, when motivation is nowhere to be found. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what you committed to. It doesn't care about how much you want something. It cares about how much you're willing to do for it. And the truth is, discipline is far less glamorous than desire. Desire burns bright and beautiful. It's the rush of inspiration, the spark of vision, the excitement of what could be. But discipline is what carries that spark when the fire threatens to go out. It is the grit in your gut that says, get up anyway, show up anyway, try again anyway. Without discipline, desire becomes a cycle, a loop of talking and dreaming and planning but never moving. You write the list, but you never start. You talk about your goals, but they stay trapped in the same notebook year after year. You get excited, then overwhelmed, inspired, then distracted. You become a master of intention, but a stranger to execution. And slowly, quietly, you begin to accept less, not because you couldn't have more, but because you refuse to give yourself structure. Discipline is love in action. Love for your future self, love for the person you're becoming. It's not punishment, it's protection. It's the daily practice of aligning your behavior with your deepest truth. It's saying, I believe in this dream enough to be uncomfortable for it. I believe in myself enough to do what needs to be done, even when I don't feel like it. Discipline turns want into work, and work into progress, and progress into reality. If desire is the seed, discipline is the soil, the sunlight, the daily water. Without it, your dreams dry out. Without it, your potential dies in the waiting room of good intentions. And you know this. You felt the sting of goals left unfinished. You felt the quiet disappointment of watching days pass while your vision gathers dust. You've promised yourself tomorrow until tomorrow became a graveyard of delays. But the dream didn't die because it was wrong. It didn't die because you weren't good enough. It died because you didn't choose it enough. Discipline is not about intensity. It's about consistency. It's not the loud declarations or the big leaps. It's the small steps taken daily, even when they feel insignificant. It's waking up and doing the thing, not because it's easy, but because it matters. It's realizing that fulfillment is not found in the fantasy of who you could be. It's built in the repetition of becoming who you are meant to be. We are taught to wait for the right time, to wait for the right resources, to wait for someone to notice our value, to recognize our potential, to give us a green light. We wait for the fear to disappear, for the conditions to be perfect, for the noise in our minds to settle, and in all that waiting, we lose momentum. We mistake stillness for preparation and hesitation for wisdom, but time does not wait for you to become ready. Opportunity does not knock on the door of the passive. Life does not unfold itself in the hands of the hesitant. It moves, it flows, it rewards those bold enough to show up before they feel qualified. Your dreams are not somewhere far off in the clouds waiting to descend upon you when you finally feel like you deserve them. They are here, right here, waiting on you, not the future version of you, not the perfect, polished, got it all together version. You right now, with all your doubts, with all your flaws, with all your history. Dreams are not passive things. They are alive, and they do not move closer to you. You must move toward them, because they are not lost. They are not hiding. They are exactly where you left them, folded into the corners of your intention, buried beneath the clutter of your excuses, waiting for you to choose them with more urgency than you choose your distractions. You think you're stuck. You think your life hasn't moved because something external is holding you back. But the greatest blockage is not on the outside. It is the delay within, the constant rescheduling of your purpose, the daily decision to stay in what is familiar rather than stepping into what is necessary. It is easy to say the world isn't ready. It is harder to admit that you have been sitting in the passenger seat of your own life, letting days pass while your calling grows cold from neglect. But your dreams don't need perfection, they need motion. Somewhere inside you, there's a version of yourself that has already tasted the vision, that has already seen the outcome. And that vision wasn't given to tease you, it was given to pull you. But you cannot be pulled toward something you won't move toward. The longer you wait, the heavier the dream becomes. Not because it is no longer possible, but because delay has weight. Every day you don't act is another layer of doubt, another brick in the wall between who you are and who you're meant to be. People will tell you to be patient. And yes, there is a time for waiting, but there is also a time for moving while you wait, for building while you're uncertain, for walking forward even when the path is unclear, because action doesn't always come with clarity first. Sometimes clarity follows commitment. Sometimes the fog only lifts after your first step. And while you're waiting for things to become certain, your dream is standing in the middle of your hesitation, wondering when you'll stop praying for open doors and start turning the handle yourself. You are not missing anything except your own permission to begin. You are not underqualified. You are not unworthy. You are not too late. You are not behind. You are just waiting, but your dream is not. It is sitting on the shelf of your potential, collecting dust, wondering if you'll ever pick it up again, wondering if you'll keep choosing comfort over calling, wondering how many more excuses you'll offer before you remember that greatness doesn't come wrapped in ease. It comes from the fire of relentless commitment, even on the days you feel like giving up. There's a soft lie whispered into our ears from childhood, the lie that says once you're ready, once you're strong enough, once you're wise enough, then fear will disappear. That courage is the reward of the confident, that bravery belongs only to the bold. And so, you wait. You wait for the shaking in your hands to stop. You wait for the voice in your head to quiet. You wait for the pounding in your chest to slow down. But fear doesn't work like that. It doesn't vanish with time. It doesn't dissolve with maturity. It evolves. It follows you into every new room, every bigger dream, every deeper truth. Because fear isn't just an obstacle, it's a companion of growth. And you will never walk toward transformation without it trying to hold your hand. Fear is not a sign that something is wrong. Fear is often the proof that you're about to do something right, something honest, something different, something that pulls you away from safety and into the wild unknown of your own becoming. It arises when you're near the edges of what's familiar, when you stand at the threshold between comfort and calling. And that's where most people freeze. That's where most people build houses out of hesitation and call it home. But the truth is, fear will always be there. The question is not whether fear shows up. The question is whether you keep showing up in spite of it. You don't need to be fearless. You need to be willing to act with the tremble in your voice, willing to speak while your heart races, willing to step forward while your mind screams retreat, Bravery is not loud and certain. It's quiet and unsure, and it happens in small, deliberate choices. It is the act of moving forward, not because you're not afraid, but because you've decided that fear doesn't get to be the driver of your life. It doesn't get to sit in your seat of decision. It doesn't get to steal what was meant for you just because it knows how to make noise. Fear will dress itself up as wisdom. It will sound like reason. It will sound like caution. It will sound like, wait until you're more ready. Maybe this isn't the right time. What if you fail? But that voice isn't there to protect you. It's there to preserve the part of you that doesn't want to change. It's there to keep you familiar to yourself, even if that familiarity is rooted in limitation. And you cannot evolve if you are always trying to stay safe. You cannot fly if you are constantly trying to avoid falling. You cannot become if you never allow yourself to break through the walls built by fear's quiet commands. Everything you desire on the other side of this moment has already made room for your arrival. The path may be unfamiliar, but it is not unmade. The space has already been cleared. The opportunity has already been aligned. The only missing piece is you, your movement, your decision, your breath saying yes even with fear pressed hard against your chest. There is no need to fight fear. You only need to walk past it, to nod at it without bowing to it, to let it come with you if it must, but to make sure it knows it is not in charge. You will not outrun fear, but you can outgrow its grip by refusing to obey it. Each time you move, despite its warnings, it becomes smaller. Each time you act, it loses a little more power, and eventually you will realize that fear is not the end of the road. It's the gatekeeper. It stands between who you are and who you're meant to be, hoping you'll turn back. But if you walk through, shaking, sweating, uncertain, you will find that fear was never as powerful as your willingness to move through it. Excuses have a tone, a tenderness, a familiarity that makes them feel more like truth than resistance. They sound like care, like reason, like logic wrapped in warm cloth. They say things like, I'm just tired. I'll start tomorrow. It's not the right time. I need to think about it more. And when they come from your own mouth, they rarely feel like avoidance. They feel like wisdom. They feel like self-preservation. But the deeper truth is, the voice we trust the most is our own. And that's exactly why excuses thrive there. Your voice knows how to cradle your delay so gently you won't even recognize it as fear. It knows how to rationalize stillness in the name of strategy. It knows how to talk you out of risk, dress up procrastination as perfectionism, and convince you that waiting is a virtue instead of a trap. Because the excuses you make aren't loud, they're not violent. They don't scream, give up. They whisper, not yet. They say, later will be better. They say, let's just be safe. And those whispers become your rhythm. You dance to their beat without realizing you're moving in circles instead of forward. We are trained to soothe ourselves with reasons that validate our hesitation. We say we're protecting our energy. We say we're waiting on clarity. We say we're trying not to rush. But behind those beautiful justifications is often the truth we dare not name. We are afraid to fail, afraid to be seen trying and not succeeding, afraid to admit how deeply we want something. Because wanting makes us vulnerable. Wanting opens the door to disappointment. And so instead of stepping into the light of our potential, we stay where it's dim, where it's comfortable, and we speak soft excuses into the silence until we convince ourselves that comfort is wisdom. But no growth comes from deception, especially the kind you offer yourself. You cannot rise into the next chapter of your life while lying to yourself about why you haven't moved. And the most dangerous lies are the ones that sound reasonable, the ones that dress up as responsibility, the ones that feel safe because they're self-spoken. When you hear your own voice telling you to wait, ask yourself, Is this wisdom or is this fear in disguise? When you hear yourself say, "Not now," ask, who benefits from this delay? Because more often than not, it is not your future self who does. Excuses are not weaknesses. They are protective mechanisms. They are the inner child still trying to avoid pain. They are the inner critic trying to keep you small so you don't get hurt. But if you always let those voices lead, you will live a life built on careful avoidance instead of bold intention. You will look up and wonder why the years have passed without anything truly changing. You will realize you've become fluent in the language of postponement, and you will have to confront the fact that the barrier was never time or skill or resources. It was the stories you kept telling yourself about why you couldn't begin. It takes great courage to confront the sound of your own voice when it is protecting your fear, to recognize that not every thought is truth, to realize that comfort isn't always kindness. It's often the most sophisticated form of delay. Growth begins when you stop listening to every word you say as if it were sacred, when you start challenging yourself, when you interrupt the cycle, when you say, "Even if I don't feel ready, I will still take the first step," because excuses will always feel familiar. They will always sound right, but they will never build the life you say you want. Discipline is a word often misunderstood, often dressed in chains and punishment, often spoken with a tone that makes it sound like deprivation. But true discipline, real, soul-rooted, vision-guided discipline, is not confinement. It is liberation. It is the quiet muscle that builds the bridge between who you are and who you're meant to be. It's the sacred thread that weaves your daily actions into the fabric of your destiny. And without it, your dreams remain just that, beautiful, distant, untouched. There are people who pray for freedom and sabotage it with every undisciplined moment. People who say they want peace but give their time to chaos. Who say they want to be strong but surrender to weakness in every moment of resistance. Who claim they want purpose but allow convenience to govern their days. The uncomfortable truth is this: freedom is not the absence of structure. It is the result of choosing the right structure. And discipline is that choice. Not once, but again and again. You want financial freedom? Discipline with your spending, your earning, your investing. You want physical freedom? Discipline in your movement, your rest, your nourishment. You want emotional freedom? Discipline in your responses, your boundaries, your healing. You want spiritual freedom? Discipline in your seeking, your silence, your surrender. Discipline is not loud. It does not boast. It does not show off. It's not dramatic. It's not romantic. It's waking up when the bed still calls your name. It's doing the work when no one claps. It's choosing what you need over what you want, repeatedly. It is saying yes to the long-term vision and no to the temporary comfort. It is showing up for your future self with fierce devotion, even when your current self is tired, uninspired, or unsure. And the miracle is this: what begins as burden becomes rhythm. What begins as struggle becomes habit. What once felt like sacrifice becomes satisfaction. Because discipline doesn't just create results, it creates identity. Every act of discipline whispers to your soul, "I can trust you." Every repetition builds not just your goal, but your character. And your character, more than your talent, more than your environment, more than your connections, is what carries you to fulfillment. There is a silent war happening in every one of us between the version of ourselves that seeks comfort and the version that seeks greatness. And every time you honor discipline, you cast a vote for greatness. Not because you're perfect, not because you're never tempted, but because you remember who you are and act in alignment with that truth. That is how discipline leads to freedom, by anchoring you in a life that is chosen, not defaulted. Freedom is not floating. Freedom is not being tossed around by impulse or emotion. Freedom is standing tall in your own structure with clear eyes and a steady hand. It's waking up and knowing where you're going. It's choosing your life, not reacting to it. It's having the power to say no to what dims you and yes to what develops you. It's no longer being controlled by craving, by chaos, by excuses. It's walking into each day with purpose already stitched into your bones because you've shown up for it too many times to forget how. True discipline is not forced. It's chosen. It's a decision made in service of your higher self, not as punishment for your lower one. It is not born of shame, but of self-respect. It is a declaration that your future matters, that your time matters, that your life is worth being lived with intention. And with every small decision, every quiet act of consistency, you are not just building discipline, you are walking through the doorway into your own freedom.